Hello, this is Bryce Morrison, game designer and editor of thegameprodigy.com, the site for practical game design. Today we're going to talk about making a sandbox game and the requirements for doing so well. Sandbox games are one of the great genres in all of video games. Will Wright is one of the most famous designers credited with pioneering a lot of this genre. While working on early games of his own, he found that he enjoyed playing around in his level editor tool more than actually making the game itself. This concept eventually became SimCity. Sandbox games allow the player to come up with their own goals, to choose the path that interests them most. Sandbox games typically have a wide variety of activities that the player can engage in, and the game itself provides minimal guidance as to which to pursue. This gives players a great sense of freedom and can be very conducive to incredible player creativity. But what are the ways to make a successful sandbox game? What are the keys that you need? Can you just take any game, get rid of the order of the levels, and call it a sandbox title? Well, not exactly. The term sandbox is actually really useful, because in order to make a sandbox game, you need a lot of sand. What I mean by this is that, for a game to allow for true sandbox gameplay, players need to see that there are enough interesting moving parts for them to get their hands dirty with. If a game only has one or two blocks to play with, then players are going to exhaust the play space very quickly. They're going to see everything that you can possibly do in a short amount of time. But if there are more, then the combinations can seem endless, and piques their interest. In this example, there are a couple things that players can stamp down in this jelly world to build their own level, and then play through it with the jellies. However, if you give them only two things, then it isn't very interesting. Sure, you can move the trees around, but in a short amount of time, players have already felt like they've explored everything. The entire play space has been exhausted, or at least, they could think of everything else that hasn't been made. The key is to add enough features so that it seems like the possibilities are endless. Once you hit that point, then it's much easier for players to enjoy creating their own ideas. Humans can only hold a handful of ideas in our heads at once, and we can extrapolate a system out only but so far. Once the capabilities of a game design cross that threshold, then the kinds of things that it looks like you can do in the sandbox start to look much greater. One important distinction that I should make here is that there's a careful balance here between the rules that the game imposes and the rules that the player makes up for themselves. This is where the real meat of sandbox game design comes into play. For example, in SimCity, the player still needs to cater to the rules of building a city using plumbing, electricity, and so forth. In Minecraft, the player still needs to build a fort at night to stay away from the zombies. These tiny rules make it a game and push the player in a creative direction. If it didn't have any rules, it wouldn't really be a game. It would be more like a Paint or Photoshop program, and that's not nearly as exciting. Sandbox games are one of the greatest examples of good game design because they take advantage of the medium of interactivity. Sandbox games are one of the only examples of art where players can actually create things that the developers never imagined themselves, and that is a very special experience. For more resources, videos, and discussion on useful and practical game design, come visit us at thegameprodigy.com. Thanks for watching.